ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अज्ञानाञ्जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीम्. Dear friends, dear Gurubandhavas, we will begin this session with prostrations to Jagadguru Śrī Adi Shankara Bhagavad Acharya and our Sringeri Jagadgurus Śrī Mahasanidhanam Śrī Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamin and Jagadguru Śrī Sanidhanam Śrī Vidhushekara Bharati Mahaswami. Today happens to be the auspicious occasion of the 30th Vardhanti or Janma Dinotsava of Sringeri Śrī Sanidhanam Śrī Vidhushekara Bharati Mahaswami. On such a sacred day, we all have the blessed opportunity to start to discuss this text written by Sri Bhagavad Acharya, which is called as PRABODHA SUDHAKARA. In our dharma, we revere the Guru as Bhagavan himself. Guru is Parabrahma, as the verse says, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The purpose of the Guru Tattva manifesting in physical form is to lead us along the path of Dharma and eventually instruct qualified seekers of the truth. This is termed as Loka Sangraha. It is for this reason that Sri Parameshiva manifested as Jagadguru Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad on the Śukla Panchamī Tithi of the Vaishakha Masa. The Sringeri Gurubandhava channel has been organizing a series of lectures to coincide with this Panchami Tithi of every Shukla Paksha. Sri Venkataraghvan ji has handled the Atma Bodha text before in this series of lectures. Now we are blessed with the opportunity to take up the Prakarana text titled PRABODHA SUDHAKARA, authored by Sri Bhagavad Acharya himself on this special day. Of course, it is also our great opportunity and great blessing that we can start this series on this very auspicious day, which is another Śukla Panchamī day, the day marking the avatara of Sringeri Jagadguru Sri Sanidhanam, the Śukla Panchamī day of the Shravana Masa. Hence, offering our prostrations to the entire Guru Parampara and Ishvara once again, let us begin our study of this text. Let me now share the screen so that you can look at the text. PRABODHA SUDHAKARA is, as we mentioned before, Prakarana Grantha, which is authored by Sri Bhagavad Acharya. A Prakarana Grantha is generally a text which summarizes or which condenses certain portions of the Veda. In this case, here we are looking at condensation of the Vedanta portion of the Upanishadic teaching. This Prakarana Grantha called PRABODHA SUDHAKARA has 19 chapters or Prakaranams. The first 6 are going to give us the teaching of Vairagya, which is the prime qualification for entering into the study of Vedanta. The next 9 chapters are giving us the teaching of the Atma Tattva, that is the teaching about the unity of Atman and Brahman. The last 4 chapters are giving us the teaching of Saguna Brahma Upasana or Bhakti towards Ishvara in the form of Lord Krishna. In a sense, this particular Prakarana Grantha is very unique and interesting in the sense that it is offering us the teaching of both the Nirguna Brahma Jnana as well as the Saguna Brahma Bhakti and teaching us about the unity of both of these things. Now we will look at the meaning of the word PRABODHA SUDHAKARA. So Akaraha, the word Akaraha here means mine or receptacle, that is some big container, some big vessel which is able to hold a lot of some particular thing. What do we mean by Sudha? Sudha here means Amrita or nectar, and the word Prabodha here means the doubt-free, intense knowledge. So in this context of this particular Vedantic text, the Vedantic Prakarana Grantha, the word Prabodha here signifies the self-knowledge or enlightenment itself. It is Prabodha, it is Prakrishta Bodha, because it is conveying the idea that this knowledge which this text is able to provide is a doubtless knowledge about the Atman, doubtless knowledge about the Brahman. It is Amrita or Sudha or nectar because this knowledge itself is something which frees us from the bondage or samsara. Because it is freeing us from this mortality, it is therefore corresponding to this nectar or amrita, which is also called as Sudha. And since this text is the collection of these immortal waters, which frees us from samsara itself via providing us jnana, this is called as Prabodha Sudhakara or Prabodha Sudhakara. So this text is therefore, the meaning of this word is therefore a mine or receptacle or the collection of waters, the ocean, which contains the nectar of enlightenment or self-knowledge. That is the meaning of this word, Prabodha Sudhakara. Before we enter into any text, it is a normal practice to look at 4 aspects which bind us to the study of this text. These 4 aspects are together generally called as Anubandha Chatushtayam. They talk about in Anubandha Chatushtayam. So there are 4 aspects which we should talk about. These 4 aspects are Adhikari, Vishayaha, Prayojanam and Sambandha. So Adhikari means the person for whom the text is intended, that is the person to whom this text will be useful. So this text being a Vedantic text, any person who is a sincere seeker and who wishes to grasp the essence of the Upanishads can study this text and get benefited. That is the appropriate Adhikari for this text. What then is the Vishaya? What is the subject matter of this text? The subject matter is nothing but the knowledge of the Parabrahma Vastu or the Atman itself. In the process of conveying this Vishaya, in the process of describing this Vishaya, Bhagavad Acharya, the author, explains to us the notions of Ishvara, Jiva, and the eventual non-difference between the two. That is the Jiva Brahma Aikya. What is the benefit of studying this text? That is the next aspect we are looking into. That is called Prayojanam. The benefit of looking at this text is that it enables the seekers to qualify themselves and eventually lead them into moksha or mukti via the process of gaining knowledge. Now, what is the sambandha? That is the connection between these things, right? So, as sincere seekers, why should we enter into this text? That is our important question. And how does this text, the knowledge which is coming out of this text, lead us into the prayojanam, which is the moksha? That is what we are interested in. Now, to understand the sambandha or the relationship between these things, that is the seeker, the sincere seeker, the adhikari, the Vishaya, the subject matter of this text, and the Prayojanam, which is the fruit of studying this text. To understand the relationship between these things, we have to enter a little bit into the finer aspects of studying Vedanta as such. All beings, all conscious entities, all individuals, all human beings, now we want happiness. Right? This is our normal desire. And we don't want happiness which is temporary. If you ask a person, when you want to be happy, the person will say, I want to be happy always. Similarly, if you ask a person, where does he want to be happy? He will say, I want to be happy at any place. Right? So this happiness that a person is seeking for, that we are seeking for, should be independent of time and place. It should not be bound to a particular time and space. This time and place, this is the kind of happiness that all of us seek. Now, if we ask the question whether we have this happiness or not, this kind of happiness, which is Nityananda, which is not bound by certain conditions of space and time, the answer comes, the honest answer which comes out is that we don't have it. Now we struggle to, all of our human endeavors are basically try an attempt to achieve this happiness via several ends. So some of us seek some artha, that is, we seek some things which keep us secure. Then or we may seek some comforts, we may have some desire for some pleasure, and we take some activities towards getting that, and we attempt in that way. So we attempt for attaining this kama. Or we may do dharma, we may do certain dharmic activities, we may do whatever is enjoined on us upon by the Vedas, by the scriptures, and through that we may seek to attain higher lokas like Swarga, etc. And through that we may seek to attain happiness. Now it turns out that any of these activities which we pursue, which eventually leads us to some happiness, which is true, that it leads us to some happiness. However, this happiness is always short-lived, or it is conditioned by the place where we stay. So we have to travel to Swarga, or we have to have a strong body, we have to have an appropriate mind, nice relationships, etc. So many conditions are put on the nature of happiness which we seem to enjoy. Once these conditions go away, and they do go away with time, and they do go away with the person moves away from that place, this happiness also seems to go away. So this happiness which we get normally seems to be always conditioned by time and place. It is not permanent, it is temporary, it is not unconditional, it is always condition bound. Now, Shastra says that there is indeed a kind of happiness or a kind of fulfillment which is called moksha, which is called Nityananda. This Nityananda or mokshananda is something which is unconditional. It is available everywhere and at all times, and it is not conditioned by anything at all. This is called mokshananda. To attain that mokshananda, what is that we have to do? Again, the Shastra tells us that this mokshananda, being everywhere and available all the time, is available to us now also. Anything which is everywhere and all the time should also be available here and should also be available right now, which means that we should not be in a position to travel somewhere, or we should not be in a position to have it at some other point of time. It should be available right here and right now. Now, in spite of the Shastra saying like that, in spite of the Upanishads revealing to us this nature of this mokshananda or this paramananda, we still don't seem to experience it, enjoy it experientially, right? We seem to not have that happiness. Now, what is the reason for this? Shastra says that avidya, or lack of knowledge, is actually the reason for it. That means this knowledge, this ananda is available here itself, moksha is available here itself. However, we don't know it. This is what Shastra says. Now, what is this moksha, or what is this ananda which is available right here, and why is it not visible to us? Shastra says it is avidya, and it is avidya about this nature of oneself. So the Upanishads reveal that the Atman itself is Nitya Mukta, it is ever free, and it is in the form of Ananda itself. It is itself Ananda. This Atma itself is Ananda. Atma is not separate from Ananda. The very nature of ourselves is happiness itself. So we don't have to gain anything extra. We don't have to go anywhere, especially in a special manner, to gain this Ananda, whereas it is present in our own nature. So given that it is present in our own nature, the Upanishad says this, why do we not understand it? That is because we lack the awareness of our own nature. We lack the understanding, the proper understanding of our own nature. So the person, as people, we always feel that I am an individual, I am the body and I am the mind. I was born and so date, etc. And I have I am traveling through this world, and I am going from one place to another, and I am the jiva who is born from one body to another body, etc. These ideas are there which bind us to our individuality. These ideas are there which bind us to our body and mind, and These ideas are what the Shastra points out as wrong ideas. Upanishads say that these ideas about ourselves that we have, that we are the body, we are the mind, we are the traveler which goes from one janma to another janma and so on, these ideas are fundamentally wrong. So what is the correct idea? The correct idea is that this Atman, the real nature of ourselves is Atman. And this Atman is nothing but Brahman, Parabrahman itself. That is, we are not restricted by time, we are not restricted by space, and we are of the nature of uh, the Ananda or happiness itself. We don't have to go anywhere to get this happiness. So how do we get this happiness now? How do we understand this? That is always by attaining the knowledge. So the opposite of ignorance is knowledge. So naturally, if there is ignorance about oneself, one's own nature, the remedy to that ignorance is that there should be knowledge of one's own nature. So Atma Jnanam or Brahma Jnanam is what we are seeking for. Now, for any knowledge, there is always a means of knowledge. Like, for instance, if you want to see color, right? If you want to see a particular form or a particular color, then you have to use this means of knowledge, which is called the chakshu pramana or the eyesight. So via the utility or via using this eyesight, we gain the knowledge about form and color. So we can say, or the Shastra says that just like this eyesight is there, which is the chakshu pramanam is there. Pramana means instrument of knowledge or means of knowledge. So this means of knowledge called eyesight is there for us to gain the knowledge about form and color. In the same way, to gain the knowledge about one's own nature, there is this pramanam which is available, which is the Upanishad pramanam. The Upanishads or the Veda, Veda Uttara Bhaga, that is available to us as the pramanam or the means of knowledge for gaining the knowledge about the Atman or Brahman. Now, a condensation of these Upanishads are what is available to us in the form of this particular Prakarana Grantha, which is the PRABODHA SUDHAKARA. Now, being a condensation or being a summary of the Upanishads, they give us the same knowledge which is present. They present to us the same knowledge which is present in the Upanishads in simple language, which is easy for us to understand. So, as a sincere seeker, if we approach this text with the attitude of doing a prayerful inquiry into this text, then we also get the same benefit as we get by reading the Upanishads itself. And what is the prayojanam of or the utility which we attain by study of this Prakarana Grantha? That is nothing but the moksha or mukti eventually by knowing our true nature. That is the connection, you can say, between the study of this text and the prayojana. And since this text itself is having the vishaya of this text is nothing but the Parabrahma Vastu, and it is giving us the knowledge of Brahman. So therefore, that is what we require. That is, we require this knowledge about our own true nature, and because of which we will be freed from samsara or sorrow, and we will attain the supreme, unalloyed, unconditional happiness. So, as sincere seekers, we have the adhikaritvam to enter into the study of this text, and that is what we will do now. So, let us read the first verse. Nityanandaikarasam Satchinmatram Swayam Jyotihi Purushottamamajamisham Vande Śrī Yadavadhisham. The first verse normally in Prakarana Granthas offer a prayer to Bhagavan. It is called as a Mangalacharana Verse. So why should we do prayer? First of all, it is our duty to pray. So therefore, we have to do prayer. And this is a new activity that is being started. So for the successful completion of this activity, we will do prayer. Also, remembrance of the Lord itself serves as a self-purificatory exercise. So we are purifying our mind while we are entering the study of the text, so that we become qualified and eventually we will understand the ideas which are presented in this text. So with this attitude, Prabhupada Acharya has presented to us this first verse of this wonderful text, which is this particular verse. So now we will see the words which are present in this verse one by one. The overall meaning, the overall idea of the line of the verse is to is offering prostrations to Bhagavan. So Vande, Aham Vande Vayam. So we are offering our prostrations to Bhagavan. So Vande means prostrate. We offer our prostrations. So to whom do we offer our prostrations? So a wonderful sequence of names or words are given in this verse which signify Bhagavan from various angles. So we will see those words one by one. The first word happens to be Nityanandaika Rasam. So we saw that this notion of the unconditional happiness or unconditional unalloyed happiness, happiness which is not dependent on anything, happiness which is not dependent on place, time, or a particular object, anything at all, that is what is known as this Nityananda. So Bhagavan, who is nothing but Brahman, which is nothing but Brahman, which is nothing but Atman in its true nature, that is signified by the word Nityananda. And this Nityanandaika Rasam. So this Bhagavan is of the essence of this Nityananda. There is nothing but Nityananda in Bhagavan. This is what is signified by Nityanandaika Rasam. Sachin Matram. So this has two ideas in it. One is Sat, another is Chinmatram. The word Sat means the fundamental existence which is behind all the manifested objects which are present in the world. All the jivas and all the manifested things which are present in the world, the fundamental existence, that existence is called as Sat. Chinmatram. The word Chinmatram here signifies the consciousness principle which is the Nimitta Karanam of the entire universe. That is the conscious principle which is responsible for manifesting the entire universe. Not only that, this is also the conscious principle which is present in us as the conscious principle, as our own nature, that is the Atman itself. So the Atman is the consciousness principle. The I, which is the subject, that is the consciousness principle. That in its reality is nothing but Bhagavan. To that Bhagavan we are prostrating. Swayam Jyotihi. Swayam Jyotihi is also signifying the consciousness principle. Here Swayam Jyotihi, the word means the one which is effulgent or which is luminous by itself, which does not require another thing to illuminate it. Purushottamam. Purushottamam, this word we will understand very easily. It means that the Lord, which is who is the supreme Purusha, who is the supreme among all the Purushas. Here Purushas means Jivas, which are the created entities, the created beings, whereas Ishvara is the creator, who is the Purushottama. Ajam. The word Ajam means the one who is not born, the one who is not manifest into the world as a Jiva. The Lord is not the Jiva, the Lord is the creator or the Shrishtikarta of all the Jivas. So Ajam is signifying that consciousness principle which is not born into the world, which is not subject to birth and death, but something which is not subject to birth and death, which is an eternal principle, that is signified by Ajam. Isham. Isham, the word means the Lord, who is the Lord of the entire universe, who is responsible for the entire Srishti, for maintaining the Srishti, and for the Laya also. Vande means I prostrate or we prostrate. Śrī Yadavadisham. So this is bringing to us, so Śrī Yadavadisham here signifies the Isha or the Lord of the Yadavas, signifying to this Bhagavan Krishna. So as we mentioned before, in this text, the initial portions of this text looks at the Nirguna Brahman, which is signified by the first half or the first line of this verse, Nityanandaika Sachin Matram Swayam Jyotihi. So that is signifying the Nirguna Brahman. Whereas the first half of the second verse, Purushottamam Ajam Isham, is signifying Ishvara, which is the Saguna Brahman, and Sri Yadavadhisham is signifying the very particular form of Ishvara, or the avatara of Ishvara, which is in the form of Lord Krishna. So all these entities here, we should not take them to be different entities. We are taking them to be the same entity, and that entity which is truly in the form of Nirguna Brahman, which is meditated upon, which brings us, which enables us to meditate upon in the form of Saguna Brahman, and which is very easily available to us for in the form of a particular personality, a particular avatara, and for all the devotees to worship. That is Lord Krishna. That is signified by this last word, Shri Yadavadhisham. So that is the verse. Nityanandaikarasam Satchin Matram Swayam Jyotihi Purushottama Majamisham Vande Shri Yadavadhisham. Now let us go a little bit deeper into each one of these words once again. Nityanandaikarasam. So this is that happiness, that entity who is in the form of, who is exclusively in the form of Ekarasam, who does not have anything else, who is the abode, or who is the in the form of the essence of all happiness. That happiness which is Nitya, which is eternal, which is not conditioned by anything, conditioned by time, space, or causation, which is not conditioned by objects, etc. That unconditional, unalloyed, eternal happiness, that is the Lord. Now, how do we understand this word better? To understand this word better, we can always contrast it with the kind of happiness which is available to us by enjoying the sense pleasures which are there in the world. Now, whenever there is an object of in the world which comes in contact with our sense organs and generates some, and this contact generates some pleasure in our minds, there are always some problems associated with this kind of pleasure or this kind of temporal happiness. First of all, it is temporary. Anything which we gain from the outside, like happiness which is gained from the outside, from the world, these will all be temporary in nature. Whether it is coming from objects, or whether it is coming from some people or some relationships or from things, if the happiness is gained from any of these things, that happiness is always temporary. And as we saw before, it is also conditioned by that particular instant or that particular time period. It exists for some time, and that too, that object generates happiness only if it is capable of being enjoyed by us. So our Acharya also has told us this example of a person who is who wants to eat a mango, and if the person is capable of enjoying the mango, that is, if the person is healthy and capable of digesting the mango and so on, so that person eats the mango, he gets some happiness, he or she gets some happiness out of it. Whereas if a diabetic person, or if a sick person is given a mango, the sick person gets only sorrow out of the mango. He feels bad about eating it, even though it may have a sweet taste, but eventually it is going to cause him a lot of suffering, because of which he suffers. So therefore, this same object can cause both happiness or sorrow to different people based on their, or even the same person on different times based on several conditions. So these happiness derived from objects has many such conditions. And further, it is also, these happiness which is we gain from the objects, it is also bandhakatva. It also has this nature of binding us. That is, you eat a particular sweet or a particular an item, and which we like, and slowly we become attached to that object. Slowly we become attached to that particular thing, right? So eat a particular sweet and you enjoy it very much. Then again the next day we feel like eating it. Again the next day we feel like eating it, and every day a kind of an addiction or a kind of an attachment is created towards it, in such a way that we have to eat it or we have to consume it to be happy. And not consuming it, not enjoying it, makes us very sad. Right? If it is not available, then we become sad. This is called bandhakatva. So it is creating an attachment of the mind. It is generating an attachment in us, because of which there is some sorrow also. So all this pleasure, the sense pleasures which we derive from the world, which is the cause of external happiness, right? We enjoy happiness by consuming something from the world, by enjoying something from the world, all of these kind of pleasures, all of these kinds of happiness, they all have their dark side, they all have a negative side, that is, they also come along with the sorrow. But here, Bhagavan is not like that. Bhagavan is somebody who is having this unconditional happiness and nothing else. There is Ekarasam, there is nothing else apart from this unconditional happiness. This happiness itself is Bhagavan, Bhagavan himself is happiness. Then Sat. So Sat we said, Satchin Matram, in that Sat. So Sat we said it is the fundamental existence behind all the manifested existences, right? Manifested objects, behind that whatever is the fundamental existence. So what do we mean by this? Now, all these manifested existence, the manifested objects, the objects of the world, whether it is the sthula or the sukshma prapancha, that is the gross world which we see through our sense organs, or the subtle world which is within us in the form of various thoughts and dreams and so on, imaginations and so on, all of these objects are again very, very temporal in nature, and they are always changing. So they exist only for some period of time in some particular zone. They are limited by both space and time, whereas this fundamental existence, which is Bhagavan, which is signified by the word Sat, this existence is not a temporal existence. It is ever existing, it is eternal, and it is not subject to birth and death, or it is not subject to change also. So that is this nature of the Sat. So in this way, so we have this understanding about various objects and various things in the world and our various experiences. When we want to understand Bhagavan, we try to contrast those things from Bhagavan, and by understanding what Bhagavan is not, we understand Bhagavan indirectly. That is the idea which is being presented here. Then Chinmatram. Chinmatram is the consciousness principle, which is also signified by the word Swayam Jyotihi. Now, how does this word Swayam Jyoti, how should we understand this? The Swayam Jyotihi word can be understood in this way. All of the Jyotis in the world, that is all of the things which are knowers, that is the knowing entities of the world, which are illumining objects by which we know several things in the world, they are all illumined by something else. Worldly things which illumine, they are all illumined by, or they are all illumined by something else. For example, during the daytime, the sun illumines the entire world. That is, we can say the entire earth, the sun is illuminating it. Whatever we see are illumined by the sun during the daytime. But what illumines the sun? Because of what is the sun itself known? The sun makes the worldly, the physical objects known, but there is something because of which the sun itself is known. That is the more primary knower to the sun itself. What is that? That is our eyesight, the chakshuhu. Because of the chakshuhu, because of the eyes, the sun itself is known. So the eyes reveal the sun. The sun reveals the objects of the world. The eyes themselves reveal the sun. So in a way, the eyes are illumining. Therefore, the eyes are more primordial. The eyes are come before as a revealer or as a knower, as a jyotihi for the sun itself. Now there is something because of which the eyesight itself is known. If a person can see, he knows he can see. If a person cannot see, he is also aware of the fact that he cannot see. If the person has a defect in the eyes, then the person knows that, oh, I have this particular defect in my eyes. I have this particular problem, because of which I understand that my sight is weak. So what is that entity because of which the eyesight itself is understood to be existing? That entity is the buddhi, or this illumined mind, the mind which is illumined, that mind, the mind which is aware, that mind is capable, that intellect is capable of being aware of the nature of the eyes or the power of eyesight. So now the mind which is knowing, the knower's mind is capable of being aware of the eyes. So therefore the knower's mind is a knower, that is a knowing entity, that is an illumining entity which precedes the eyes itself, right? So the eyes precede the sun, the eyes are preceded by the knower's mind or the knower's intellect. Now because of what is the knower's intellect known? Now you see, the person says, I am aware, I am not aware, or my mind is in a proper state. I am very conscious, or my mind feels dull. No, I am feeling dull and I am feeling very bright or very aware. I am very conscious. I am feeling sleepy. I am feeling enthusiastic. Right. So all of these nature of the mind, the internal organ of which reveals the eyes, this internal organ which is the mind, that is being revealed by something even more primordial. That is the knower itself. That is the Atman itself. This Atman or the I, which is the fundamental knower, what is that? That which knows this knower. Right? I witness the mind witnesses the eyesight witnesses the sun reveals the world. What is that sees the eye? There is no secondary entity which sees the eye itself. There is no secondary entity which is seeing the knower, the witness, the fundamental witness, which is I myself, which is the consciousness principle itself. That consciousness principle is called as the Atman. That consciousness principle is nothing but Bhagavan itself. That is what is being told by this verse. So we have seen the first two line. The second line, Purushottamam. So as we all know, Bhagavan Ishvara is referred to by this word called Purushottama, and this comes in the Vishnu Sahasranama. It comes in many places. It comes in the Gita also. So Purushottama means what? The supreme of all the Purushas. The Purushas here generally refers to the various jivas, the individual created conscious entities. That is all the individual created beings in the universe. And the Lord is the supreme, is the most exalted among is beyond all these jivas as the more fundamental consciousness principle, which is not even manifested, which is ajam and not even manifested within the Srishti. So the Lord is ajam, the Lord is also Purushottama. We can also understand by this word Purushottama that it is signifying Bhagavan Keshava. So Bhagavan Śrī Krishna. So Śrī Krishna is also called Purushottama. In the avatara which Bhagavan took, we see that he expressed himself in the form of the avatara. Right? He revealed to everybody, that he revealed to all the people who had the ability to understand that he was Bhagavan himself. So therefore he was Purushottama in that avatara. So ajam, we have seen the unborn one, the one who is not manifest, that is the one who is not subject to birth, death, and any type of change, etc. So Isham means the Lord. The Lord here signifies the one who is not under the control of the Srishti of Maya at all. Right? Whereas all the jivas, we are all under the control of Maya. The Bhagavan, the real Bhagavan, that Bhagavan is not in the control of Maya at all. He is the one who is the Lord of Maya. Under his supervision, Maya operates. Under his, because of his presence, the entire Srishti, Sthiti and Laya happens. He is not subject to any of these things. In his presence, all of these happen. So that is Isham. Shri Yadavadisham is referring to Lord Bhagavan, Shri Krishna, in that particular avatara, and such a person, such an entity who is of this nature as revealed by the shloka, we prostrate to Vande. So let us read the verse once again. Nityanandaikarasam Satchinmatram Swayam Jyotihi Purushottamamajamisham Vande Shri Yadavadisham. So with this, we begin the study of this wonderful Prakarana Grantha called Prabodha Sudhakara. We will continue reading the next verse from the next meeting. Our pranams to Acharyas and Bhagavan once again. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.